Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Kemi Fola Adiemo. Today on the program, House of Representatives begin probe into Edo Assembly crisis. It's coming just as 15 aggrieved members-elect plot impeachment against Governor Obaseki. NGF denies continuous payment or decries continuous payment of fuel subsidy. Senate seeks death penalty for rapists, pedophiles, and wants federal government to also ban production, importation, and circulation of sniper. Later on the program, Senator Elisha Abo appears before the Senate Ethics Committee over assault of lady, but asks panel not to threaten him with suspension. Full package today, I'll be hanging out with Mayor Akimpelu and Emeka Madunagu. If you're ready, Journalist Hangout starts now. Well, there's fire on the mountain in Edo State. No one seems to be scampering for safety yet to ensure that fingers are not burnt. The House of Representatives has now waded into the crisis engulfing the State House of Assembly over what's been called improper inauguration of members. The 13-man House committee headed by Abdul Razak Namdas has now met with the 15 aggrieved members-elect who were not part of that nocturnal inauguration that occurred on June the 17th. The fence-mending meeting is coming after the lawmakers who are yet to be sworn in threatened to impeach the governor, Godwin Obaseki. Well, somebody is casting the die. That's the thrust of our discussion this evening. Gentlemen, you're welcome. I'll begin with Emeka, with the role that the federal lawmakers are making now. The Senate has also set up its own committee, so now it's a full long intervention.
Yeah, they're going to work together.
Absolutely. But then to what end? What really can they achieve?
Yeah, I hope they'll be able to bring the lawmakers together to the negotiating table so that they can put this crisis behind them and move on. You see, there isn't so much at stake beyond the fact of allowing the governor to run the state as a governor. I mean, it's the same problem of Abuja politicians versus home-based politicians. You've had it from the time you had the problem in Enugu. If you remember years ago when some members of Enugu State House of Assembly will fly in from Abuja, land in Enugu, sit, and then fly back, and all of that, all the drama. Even in the same Edo State, in 2014, there was a similar crisis. When in an attempt to remove Deputy Speaker, the House became fractured. It was the same 15 versus 9, 24. Those who were loyal to Adams Oshiomhole as governor then were sitting in the government house in the old House of Assembly complex, while those on the side of the PDP were, sitting in the main chamber of the House of Assembly. Right. Of the House of Assembly. Mm-hmm. So you found out that this situation, is just sort of repeating itself. But this time,
it's from within the party.
But this time it's from within the party. The other time it was PDP versus APC. Now it's a house divided against itself. And the basic thing is this. The Abuja politicians are accusing the governor of running a one-man show, of running a unilateral show, that he doesn't want to, that he's been calling them greedy people, that they are trying to, get him to push the resources of the state to them. But the governor is also saying that they are trying to muzzle him, they are trying to tie his hands, to make it difficult for him to run the state, that he's not ready to share the state's resources with powerful politicians. So now this crisis has snowballed into the issue of proclaiming the House of Assembly. Of course, normally the chief executive of the state, in this case the governor, was supposed to have issued a proclamation in good time for the House of Assembly to be inaugurated. Now the governor's spokesman, Crusoe Sagis, issued a statement where he said a proclamation was duly issued. And so there was the inauguration of those 9 lawmakers. And 2 others have since joined them, making them 11. So now the issue comes to the point where is it legitimate? Do they have the required number of people to form a quorum to elect a speaker? But you see, it's an internal thing. to go to the extent of talking of impeaching the governor when you have not even been sworn in, I think that is engaging in brinkmanship. Right. What those members, what those lawmakers who have not been sworn in should be doing is trying to build amity, trying to build peace, peace building, not trying to set the state on fire. You are lawmakers.
Right. That said, Mayor, it's your turn now. Does National Assembly have its mandate clearly cut out now? Is it a simple matter now, or in the words of Emeka now, the work will just be to, prevail on these 15 members who happen to be new in the House now, to prevail on them to just, put down their daggers and rather sue for peace?
I think it's a simple matter. Simple matter because the National Assembly have the powers to assume the role of lawmaking for the Assembly if they think there is crisis that cannot be solved in that Assembly. But I think what they should do is to try to convince the godfather in Abuja, yes, who think he must continue to control Edo State. What Adams Oshiomhole is doing is not right. Everybody that loves democracy should tell him that that is not how we should practice democracy. I remember that when he became governor, he gleefully announced that he has retired godfathers in Edo State and that there's no politics of godfather in Edo State. But what he's doing is to insist that he must continue to be the godfather in Edo State. It's on record that
Comrade Oshiomhole hasn't even made, any statement in this crisis looming in his home state as to this perceived rivalry between him and his godson.
You don't need to make statements. Yeah. You don't need to make statements. Yeah. You can. What is important is who holds the leverage within the state. Yeah.
And it's clearly him.
Yes, the 15 members who are threatening to impeach the governor are his supporters, are his people. You understand? So for them to solve the problem, the National Assembly members should use their clout to be able to convince the godfather and his boys, the 15 members, to say, look, there's a way, because we are members of the same party, there's a way we can sit down and try to resolve these differences. Because, like Emeka said, it is not a fundamental difference between them. The only problem is that who controls power within the assembly. The governor, who has 11 supporters now, he used to be 9 supporters, believe that it would be suicidal for him to concede the assembly to the godfather. Within the cabinet, there were a lot of commissioners that were put there by the godfather. But he felt, I should be able to control the assembly. He has 9 members. There used to be 17 on the other side. Oh, it used to be 15, now 13 and 11 now. And 11, yeah. And he was now trying to convince them to say, look, because the godfather did not agree, and they did not agree with him, he did something that I do not support. He made 9 members to install the speaker in the dead of the night, which they shouldn't have done. But you see, in Nigeria, our politicians are used to using desperate style to have their way. Yeah. It is not right. But the same thing that the other legislators are doing, they don't even have the power to impeach the governor because they have not been sworn in. So in the face of the law, they are yet to be recognized as members of assembly. It's one thing to be duly elected, but then it's one thing to be a member. Yes, you have to be sworn in, yes. Of the House of Assembly. Yes.
Key issues from Mayor's initial remarks now, but then it also brings us to the constitutionality of the action of the 9 in June. The Constitution appears to be silent on what constitutes a quorum at the point of inauguration. It clearly says, though, that, a 1/3 majority, creates or sets up a quorum now. But in this case now, don't we have a wrong, from what we saw that transpired on that midnight, don't we have a wrong that clearly, nullifies the action of the 9?
You see, politics is about negotiation. There are no hard and fast rules about politics. It's just that Nigerian politicians want to, when it's not going their way, they begin to talk of law, constitutionalism. But when they want the laws to work in their favor, it is a different ball game. You see, basically, looking at the issues, basically, 1/3, is it not 8? 1/3 of 24 is 8. Now, there are 11 on the side of the governor. Peradventure, 2 more or 3 more cross over to the other side, and it will be a different ball game. Or if the governor can get up to 16 on his side, now that becomes 2/3. So what would the others be talking about? The basic issue is this.
But there have been claims of, 1 or 2 of the members coming out to publicly say that they were coerced to even join the meeting initially.
What you see, that's what I tell you about Nigerian politicians. They were coerced into doing what's out of fear. Maybe they've been intimidated. Maybe they've come under intense pressure. But the fact of the matter is this: put all this aside. The good people of Edo State deserve to enjoy the benefit of the votes they cast in the elections.
And they're being deprived.
They are being deprived. So, but the fact of the matter is that the lawmakers should realize that they are going to work together. And what is at the heart of all this? The fact that Oshomole was not allowed to choose the person who should be speaker.
Yes.
And that the governor chose Okiye as the speaker. That's the main problem.
That's the thing.
The lawmakers don't have issue with the fact that I'm yellow, you are black, or I'm green, you're purple. They don't have any issue with that. It's just the issue of, spoils of office, which is the major problem in this country. Politicians just go in there, who get, all they want to do is who gets the chunk, who gets the lion's share. The people, they can throw the people to the side. But you see, there was a protest, public protest today, well attended, and the people of Edo State spoke. Adams Oshomole should allow Governor Godwin Obaseki to run the state. Let the lawmakers go and sit down and decide. If they want Okiye to continue as the speaker, it will be a give and take thing. It will be a give and take. But for external forces to think they can...
External forces, you mean who now? The National Assembly?
No. You see, the National Assembly, they are just, they are
empowered
like
by the law.
They are senior colleagues.
Right.
I'm very happy that the National Assembly did not fall into the trap set by these Abuja politicians. What they wanted was for the National Assembly to just declare straight away that the House of Representatives will take over lawmaking in Edo State, which would have aggravated the crisis. But you see, the leadership of the National Assembly in the House of Representatives and the Senate, they were matured enough. They behaved like statesmen and said, okay, no, let us investigate. Let's not just rush into the fight like a mobile policeman going to quell a riot.
All right, Emeka. So it's a week has started counting, from yesterday. The committee, especially the NAMDAS-led committee in the House, should be in Edo State by now to get first-hand facts. But and now that the two of you have more or less, agreed on, okay, this is the path they should take, do you see it happening? What will be the results of the findings in Edo State if they have to, in your words, resort back to Comrade Oshomole?
Yeah, I think it will be resolved.
Will that even be within their mandate?
No, I think it will be resolved because what they need to do is to because the 15 members of Edo House of Assembly who are trying to create crisis now is because the Godfather is not angry with them, is not happy with them, and they must make the Godfather who made it possible for them to be members of that assembly happy. So if they can talk to these people, know what the problem is, and then convince the Godfather to say, okay, let us do give and take. Because the main problem is who becomes the speaker. And the governor do not want to risk not having the speaker from his own side of the assembly. And the Godfather, who seems to have more assembly members, wants the speakership. But I think that could be give and take. Yeah,
trade
and yes, that could be give and take.
You see that compromise actually ending this.
Yes, why I see that is because Obaseki is determined that he is not going to allow Oshomole to have his way.
And do you think the governor even has the support of his people maybe that is also what is fueling his insistence to have his way.
I think it does, because the governor is with, the people are with the governor. The people of Edo State are with the governor. The palace that is very powerful in Edo State, that made it possible for Shomole, who is a minority in Edo State, to become governor, is with Obasaki. The person that is not with Obasaki is Oshomole. But Oshomole, as chairman of the party, has enough on his plate. There are crises in a lot of states in APC. He should concentrate on that. I understand that, yes, it's important for him to be relevant and powerful in his state. But you can only do that when you are completely in charge. He's not completely in charge. And he has a governor who is determined not to allow him to have his way.
All right, gentlemen and our viewers, we'll just take a breather at this point to introduce our next topic. We'll be talking about the renewed argument on the relevance of the fuel subsidy. Before we go on a break, perhaps we can have a bite at that now. Talking about the fuel subsidy regime in Nigeria, it's a typical case of the more you look, the less you see, where despite its financial burden on the government, the call for its removal has now continued to divide opinions in the country. It appears that fuel subsidy is becoming more unpopular. Recently, the Nigeria Governors Forum decried its continuous payments by the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation. Chairman of the Governors Forum, who is also the governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, told the new group managing director of the NNPC, Mele Kyari, that fuel subsidy remains a major drawback to government revenues, and so the need for a new approach to absorb the cost. How do we bell the cat? The government, Emeka, has since said it will only remove fuel subsidy when it has, cushioned the effects of the removal on the average Nigerian. But then we see Kayode Fayemi, and the former Minister of Mineral Resources, he should know what he's saying. What do you think about this this argument coming at a time when we have a new GMD?
You see, the President Muhammadu Buhari will do well to be careful with these with governors. The same governors did Goodluck Jonathan in. If you remember 2012, when we could have started this journey to the removal of fuel subsidy, you saw what the protests, you saw how the country was grounded. Oh, we didn't want removal of fuel subsidy and all of that. So if it wasn't okay in 2012, is it okay now? What are the remedial measures that have been put in place between 2012 and now to suddenly warrant the removal of subsidy? Are the refineries working? We're still dependent on importation. The refineries are not working. How are petroleum products being transported? What is going on with the subsidy regime? Who are those benefiting from it? Has anybody been jailed for fraudulent diversion of fuel subsidy? Who are the people who are benefiting from this fuel subsidy? The average man on the street who has to depend on generators largely to power his business, to run, to provide energy in his home. How has he benefited from this? You now find out that Nigerians depend largely on public transportation by road. And so that is why you see these claims about, fuel subsidy. At a certain point in time, fuel subsidy went down. And then suddenly it began to develop, it began to grow in leaps and bounds. And people were wondering, if you say, okay, it's because the population has increased. Now, where is the population that's suddenly gulping these huge sums? You call it fuel subsidy, you call it under recovery, you call it all kinds of names. When are we really going to bite the bullet and take this country away from dependence on the oil sector? When are we going to fully diversify the economy, largely diversify the economy, so that we don't just have to be, keep ourselves, because it's self-immolation. We are keeping ourselves at the mercy of the vagaries of the oil market. And it's not good for our economy at this stage. We need to wean ourselves, from this dependence on, all this stock politics about fuel subsidy and all of that.
And the argument, Mayor, I'm sorry, the argument against fuel subsidy, of course, rings loudly, not only in Nigeria, but of course, away from the country now. And if I may just prompt you now, the NGF chairman also revealed some staggering amounts, how that, the prices of what the government pays as fuel subsidy has risen. As at 2018, or between 2016 and 2018, it was at 28.6 billion naira in 2016 and now stands at 345 billion naira as at the mid of 2018.
Fuel subsidy is a scam. Huge scam.
Big one.
And it's just, there's a mafia within NNPC who benefits from this fuel subsidy nonsense. And I'll tell you why. Yes, people show sentiments. You see, in Nigeria, we want to move forward, but we don't want to make the efforts for that movement to move forward. We have to be realistic. There's nothing like fuel subsidy. One, our country cannot afford it. We borrow money every time to fund our budget. This country is on borrowed money. It's being run on borrowed money. And fuel subsidy is just making some people, some fat cats in NNPC rich. Yes, people will mention that, it is going to affect the masses. Like Emeka said, they're going to need fuel for their generator. That's crap. What we are doing is that, one, we are making some people in NNPC rich because it's in their interest for them to claim they are importing all this nonsense. We knew how the last National Assembly, the Edo Assembly, was able to expose the fraud that was herein. And some people are actually being jailed for that. And what we need to do, apart from those fat cats in the NNPC, we are subsidizing elites, people like you and I, who drives more than a car, who drives 2, 3, 4 cars, and they buy petrol cheap. In West Africa, we are the only ones selling petrol cheap. If you go to Cotonou, if you go to Ghana, petrol is not cheap. So instead of us making people rich, and then the elites, the parasitic Nigerian elites who just want to be enjoying themselves, let's pay the normal price for fuel. Let the forces of demand and supply determine how much we pay for fuel. Let government spend money on infrastructures and social amenities for the people. Not that they will claim they are doing subsidy, and then some people will collect close to 1 trillion, and then they will now claim they will spend that money on fuel subsidy. There's nothing like that. And it will not affect the masses, because majority of the people who enter these buses, they use diesel. Diesel used to be like that. When the subsidy regime was removed from diesel, we didn't have problem with diesel again. The price fluctuates. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down based on the frequency of the market. We should allow petrol to do that. When the
scarcity does not even affect diesel.
That's what I'm saying, because sometimes when it's
that. Yes, sometimes the price might go up, sometimes it will come down, sometimes it will stabilize. Let us do the same thing. Let us do the same thing because the masses, the really poor people are buying kerosene at a higher price. So why should we not buy?
But then the argument against the persistent payment of fuel subsidy, is it holistic? Does it have to do with the what's the word now? The transparency or otherwise by the state oil firm, which Mr. Kyari, the new helmsman at the state oil firm now has promised to enforce, that now operations in the NNPC will be open, will be transparent, will be free for people to see that, okay, things are being done the way it should be. Is this what the argument is all about, or that it's wholly a financial burden on the country?
Now, let me tell you, we were on this table sometime last year where we trashed this thing. And I remember then, Babajide actually challenged Mekanti Barrow, who was the GMD then, to come out and tell Nigerians the truth about all of this thing around fuel subsidy. Now, let me tell you, when President Buhari came into office, The Minister of Economic Planning, then Udo Doma, and then the Minister of Finance, then Kemi Adeosun, they met with officials of the IMF, and they talked about this subsidy thing. What they opted for was price-setting mechanisms. But Nigerians were given the impression that deregulation was on the cards. Now, these are two different things. Price-setting mechanism, adjusting price. Deregulation is a different thing. Then you are not even bringing the key issue, transparency. Because all I see now is just, okay, remove fuel subsidy. Let's just, all things are passed away. Let the sinners go free. Let the sinners go scot-free with whatever they have made from the entire fraudulent fuel subsidy regime, and then just increase it, just raise it to whatever price, and then we can continue, life goes on. But the issue is this, let me tell you, if the problems within the sector are not dealt with, we will still come back to that. Because you see, it's very easy. You can increase fuel to, let's say, 200 naira, 300 naira. You know what's going to happen? All that needs to be done is just for tanker drivers to cross the border. Our borders are still as porous as anything. So all they just need to do is okay, our fuel is the cheapest. All right, you want to make it the most expensive in West Africa. Fine, go ahead. The same set or the same cartels that have been benefiting from the ups and downs sector will just simply move their tankers across the porous borders. Right, and the same thing will continue.
Let me also get Mayor's final thoughts now on this discussion. There's also the argument that NNPC is bearing too much that perhaps, gives it the leeway to for excesses on the part of the NNPC. There's this issue of collection and remittance of oil royalties. There's also collection and remittance of petroleum profit tax now. Now the advocacy is take it out from the NNPC, the constitution or the laws that govern FIRS and, these are the people that should, collect and remit these monies to the government.
Yes, but that's why I said that. You see, it is easy for anybody to say NNPC, it's easy for the MD of NNPC, the new MD, Kyari, to say whatever he likes. Yeah. He's just saying whatever he likes. There's a mafia within that. You have to dismantle that mafia. For you to dismantle that mafia, you have to remove so many people. They'll be entrenched, they've been so rich, and they are powerful. So if you come and say your own, they will look at you. Because the major problem that we have with our NNPC is that right now, majority of the fuel that we consume is imported by NNPC. That is not right. We have to encourage other people, anybody, to be able to, any businessman, or any major, to be able to import petroleum products like they used to do and sell. And
will the cleanup start now under Kyari's regime?
They will not do that unless it's profitable to them.
Kyari is saying he will revive the refineries. Now that is another job for the boys.
No, that's another scam.
Another job for the boys.
So you don't see
turn around maintenance.
Because the money they used to do to revive, to do turnaround maintenance alone in those refineries is enough to build another refinery.
What you need to do,
so they know.
NNPC needs to be reformed. Reform NNPC.
Do you see that happening now?
President Buhari should bite the bullet.
He should do that.
I'm not the president. He is the president. He should bite the bullet. Reform NNPC. People have made suggestions in different areas. Bite the bullet and get this mafia, dismantle this mafia, deal with this mafia, so that Nigerians can buy into whatever you say.
So Mele Kyari doesn't have the legal mandate to?
He's not the president. Yes, he's the GMD, but don't forget, the president is, I don't know if he's going to continue to hold the portfolio of petroleum minister.
But was the Minister of Petroleum Resources.
Yeah, he was the Minister of Petroleum Resources. Right. So the buck stops on his table as Minister of Petroleum Resources and as the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We'll wait and see if the substantive role now will still rest on the President's plate, now talking about handling petroleum resources. But then still to come on Journalist Hangout today, Senate seeks death penalty for rapists and pedophiles. It also wants federal government to ban production, importation and circulation of snipers. Stay with us. You're watching Journalists Hangout. Let's move on now. According to an African proverb, when the rhythm of the music changes, the dance step must change as well. The upsurge in cases of rape of minors in Nigeria now demands a review of existing laws to check the trend. As the Nigeria Senate suggests, now it's seeking the death penalty for rapists and pedophiles. After adopting a motion on the menace, the Senate also resolved that application of the death penalty to rapists and opening of registers for rape offenders would serve as a deterrent to perpetrators. Besides rape, suicide is another malady bedeviling the country. Sniper insecticide appears to be the ready available tool. So part of the move to stem this dangerous tide now, the Senate is now asking the federal government to ban the production, importation and circulation of the sniper chemical in the country. Mayor, critical social issues being raised now for us to ponder on. Talking about rape now, from life imprisonment or 14 years, which our laws currently provide. Now, we are having another death penalty suggestion. How will this curb this worrying tide?
I agree with it. I think that, but I agree with it on the basis of sending a message to rapists to say, this is not us, and we are not going to accept this. But I don't think it will really change much. Why I say so is that those who get involved in crime have this psychological makeup that they want to involve in that crime. They know there is punishment for that crime, but they are not bothered about that punishment. What is important to them is do that crime, to get involved, and then if they succeed, fine. If they don't succeed, they will take whatever punishment comes. Why I say so is that there was time that we introduced death penalty for armed robbery. It has not covered armed robbery in Nigeria. People were facing firing squad then, but people will still get involved in armed robbery. There are some countries, in Asian countries and the Arab countries, where there's death penalty for carrying drugs. Every time people still carry drugs to those destinations, when they know that it carries the death penalty. So because you have death penalty does not mean people will not get involved in it. But at least let us send a message to say, look, this is not us, because pedophiles and rapists are not us. Culturally, that's not the way we are. Our African culture believes that you must give protection. Our parents are ready to sacrifice their lives for their world, for their kids. So when you see a man, a grown-up man, defiling an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old girl, is unusual. That's not us. So it's important for us to send strong message to say, look, we are not going to accept this, but I have my doubts whether that will solve the problem. For sniper,
right.
For sniper,
before we even get to sniper, I want to compare your thoughts now with Emeka's, because then there's also the issue of, even with the current punitive measures provided for under the laws, what have we achieved? 18 convictions out of 1,788 cases in 2015 alone, just 18, less than 20 convictions. So how will this correct? How will the death penalty, help victims get justice in our present court systems?
Yeah, I think the judiciary needs to fast track, needs to take this issue very, very seriously. Maybe create special courts to try rape, sexual abuse, pedophilia, because it has assumed some alarming dimensions. You find out that even close family members get involved in these things. It used to be like, okay, maybe rape was carried out by, mainly criminals, but you even find out that the family system has broken down. You even find close family members breach the trust that they are supposed to uphold. So it has gone to a very, very bad extent. And then you find people who should be guardians of trust, who should uphold trust. People in sensitive positions, people in positions of trust that people look up to as role models. People look up to as people they can unburden, they can share their burdens with. You find out some of these people are also involved in this, in rape, in sexual abuse. And so, where do you get the remedy? who is going to save this society from this shameful degeneration? It is very shameful because, like my colleague said, this is not us. I think government, the National Orientation Agency, we've often complained about this agency. I don't know what that agency exists for. That agency should rise to the occasion and go out with campaigns to talk about rape. You know, there was a time some people tried to raise this campaign. If you see something, say something. Anybody, you should also create helplines, anonymous helplines, even lines that people can send text messages to. Because there is one strand of the argument that, oh, victims don't want to come out because of the shame and then, because of the stigma.
Absolutely.
But you see, we must take drastic measures on this because it has assumed an epidemic level. Since, like in Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe said, since hunters have learned to shoot without missing, Eneke the bird has learned to fly without perching. So what does it mean? We must now go the whole hog. Government must see this as an epidemic. The same way government responded to Ebola and killed Ebola in Nigeria, the same way government should respond to this and kill it. Kill it. Make sure it is no longer mentioned because it casts a negative image on us as Nigerians.
The government or the Senate is even also, suggesting to add to what you said. Emeka is also talking about the review of existing laws. Also talking about let's establish rape registers as well across the country, because then even when they get to be jailed, perpetrators, what's the tendency or what's the assurance that they won't come back now? Seeing the lapses in our laws, they won't come back, to continue perpetrating these wrongs.
Yes, I agree. I agree with the Senate. I think why we have low conviction rate is because it's very difficult to prove rape. Two, victims, because of societal pressure, are reluctant to talk about it or come out and become witnesses. So some of these people that get involved in this dastardly act survives it and because of the laxity. So I agree that we should tighten our laws so that we can make people accountable for what they do. And then the register thing is for us to be able to identify where these rapists are, because even when they go to jail until the law is changed and they come out, they're going to blend into the society again, especially in the rural areas, and they can do it again. So we must be able to have a register so that we know, so that the law enforcement agents can keep an eye on these people within the society where they stay. So I agree that it's a good idea.
Sniper suggestion now, should it be banned? We've seen sniper, making the news. Like you said, it's just a product, but it's readily available.
What about otapia?
Any other thing?
Do you know about the chemical called otapia? It is made by micro producers. By producers, in
So it's just one. Areas. Sniper is just one.
It's just a product. What about Gamalin 20? Let's begin to name it. What about the Lagos Lagoon? Are you going to drain the water in Lagos Lagoon? Or are you going to drain all the rivers in Nigeria? Maybe you drain the Atlantic Ocean. What are we talking about? The problem is that we have a fundamental breakdown of moral values in the society. The family unit has collapsed. Parents no longer feel they should be responsible for the proper bringing of their children. This, everybody is running after money, job, career. Father runs away early in the morning, mother runs away early in the morning, nobody to take care of the children. So what do you have? And then you see, what's the popular culture now? Look at what you have in music, in entertainment, in movies. Who regulates all these things? Who makes sure that children do not get exposed to some of these corruptive influences? Because when you even watch children at times in certain gatherings, you even see certain things that children indulge in. It breaks the heart. It makes one weep. So the problem is you can ban anything you like. Let me tell you, if you don't touch the core, which is the soul, if you don't touch the inner, if you don't touch the inner part of people and deal with the issues, the socio-economic factors, the psychological factors, if you don't deal with these things, you can ban anything you like.
Mayor, how do you tackle this suicide concern head on?
Yeah, I think with all respect to those who said that, I think banning sniper is idiotic. I think it doesn't serve any purpose. But the problem we have is that it has to do with cause and effect. In Nigeria, we expend all our energy in effect, and we overlook the cause. What is important is that why is suicide rate increasing in Nigeria?
Absolutely, and the senators also said that.
That is what we should look at.
They also go back to the NOA,
that's what we should look at. Why is it suicide suddenly? Because let me tell you something. Again, that is not us. Committing suicide in the African setting in Nigeria is something that is very fundamental. It is when there's a big shame or something that somebody believes that no,
cannot face.
I cannot face this. This is our family will not be able to face this. It's not something that you will see somebody, a young girl or a young adult or a young guy, committing suicide because he was jilted or she was jilted by somebody. That's not us. But so what we should ask is that why is there an increase in the rate of suicide in Nigeria? And I think the first one has to do with, yes, the breakdown of family values. We are not doing the kind of roles that we're supposed to do. The family as a unit is not as effective as it used to be. Then you move to the larger scale, because part of the things that make us different from Oyimbos is that we have family, extended family that looks out for each other. You understand? You can have problems, but before, members of your family will take it as their problem, and everybody will want to help you solve the problem. Now, people have to face life on their own, and some people cannot cope. Then you now look at the state of the society. Government government before, a lot of people look up to government for government to be able to provide a lot of things. Then government have failed in their duty to do that. Mm-hmm. So people are frustrated, and they are taking that frustration that frustration has led to increase in mental health, and we are not looking at that. Government must also look at mental health. A lot of people that are frustrated, that are going under a lot of stress, but people do not know. They just look at them, they face the challenges on their own, and when they could not take it anymore, they commit suicide. So it's not sniper. Anybody that wants to commit suicide will commit suicide. Whether he wants to use sniper or use Otapiapia or go to Third Mainland Bridge and jump into the lagoon. You understand? So what we should look at is that what are the causes that we have increase in this suicide among our people? How do we solve that problem so that we can reduce the tendency for people to want to take their lives?
And yes, the conversation has, become national. We've seen the conversation about, how to stem suicides and, related ills now. Even in our religious bodies, youth groups are, springing up to tackle this head on. But is it a problem of, can we sustain this? How do we penetrate that soul, that wounded soul that, is pondering on, suicide as the only option?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that we must agree, like I said earlier, the family unit has collapsed. So the fact of the matter is I think government should also work with psychologists. We need more psychologists in the country, guidance counselors to move into the society. I spend a lot of time on social media, and so I'm able to gauge certain things. You find out that, especially on Twitter, if you, watch the way a lot of, youths make comments, you watch certain things, you'll find out that, a lot of them are angry. A lot of them feel that the society doesn't care about them. So you find out that if they had the option to commit suicide, it wouldn't even take much time. I mean, I some days ago, I observed how, there was an alert. There was a suicide alert about a girl, an undergraduate in the university in the north, who wanted to commit suicide, and then somebody posted something on Twitter that who is in so and so place, please, somebody wants to commit suicide, and they were able to stop the girl from committing suicide.
All right, Emeka, to another developing story now. It was Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka who said in one of his works that a fault soon amended is soon forgiven. After tendering a face-saving apology over assault of a lady at a sex toy shop in Abuja, we thought, or many thought, Adamawa North Senator Elisha Ado Abo, I should say, was on the verge of redemption, but then he fueled the fire only recently when he appeared before the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges this week, probing the assault rather than being penitent. Senator Abo confronted the panel, engaging Chairman Senator Sam Ego and a member of that panel, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, in a shouting match over methods adopted for the sit-in. When reminded of implications of his action, the embattled senator said he couldn't be threatened by suspension. Let's watch that drama that played out at the Senate hearing.
Senate President constituted this committee, and you can see the level and integrity of the people under here. You don't come in here and dictate to us the procedures we are supposed to adopt. And that is, you don't dictate to us because you undermine us by even trying to do that. You haven't even listened to us. Even if we are going beyond what you expect, you can stop us. But you don't come to on the other side and start dictating to us. I said we are not threatening. I will not sit you threatening and suspect. All due respect, sir. With all due respect to you, I won't sit here. You are my colleague. You are a senator like me. You cannot threaten me suspect.
You see, about how many of us senators are here? And even if you take offense, what is it? Unless you give quiet.
I have been receiving thousands of media distance for me to go and address journalists to tell them my side of story. I refused. But coming here to be ambushed with media people covering me, I will not talk to the media. I will now ask, as a privilege of a senator, that I address this committee as in a closed session.
All right, gentlemen and our viewers, Emeka, let me come to Mayor now. It appears that Elisha Abo eventually had his way because the journalists left the room for him. But then in his words, privileges of a senator, does he deserve that?
Yes, let me start by saying that I don't agree with Senator Abo. What he did was despicable. Attacking a woman in a shop is unacceptable. And I'm happy that the Nigerian people, using the social media power, have been able to call him to order. Because before, there's this mentality of a big man in Nigeria. Most times when they do things, they get away with it. But in this case, he has a point. And the point is this. We all know that if it comes to equity, must come with clean hands. The Senate has rules. And the rule is that if there is a case in court, the Senate cannot look into it because it's sub judice. So, ab initio, this special committee constituted by the Senate President should not have sat. Because
even though it was constituted before he was arraigned.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Because he has been taken to court, he has been charged for assault. So any other thing must wait until the resolution of that case. That is the rule of the Senate. So what he's saying is that I came here as a mark of respect for this committee. I am not supposed to talk because the case is in court and it's sub judice. And he's right. Yes, he has done something that is bad. Yes, his comport may sound arrogant. But in the face of the law, he's right. If there is a case in court, it is the rule of the Senate is clear. They cannot look into it.
Emeka, and maybe the Senate then should have, told the line of disciplining him there and then, as soon as, that video was in everybody's face. I mean, nobody could deny it, even after the initial denials. Perhaps he should have been, suspended. That way, taking away the toga of a senator with privileges, quote and unquote. Or are you also towing the same line of Mayor?
You've said it all. I mean, you've just said what the Senate ought to have done. They should have suspended him.
But they can't do that without hearing from him.
No, yeah,
That's the
well,
law.
no,
the probe is still on, while the panel is probing him.
Yes, but again, they couldn't also have just wielded the big stick. Since the matter is in court, they could have just waited and then let the court decide. Then the Senate would now know what to do. Because there have been cases in the Senate. There have been issues in the Senate. You've had cases of lawmakers fighting, tearing their clothes. Who took them to court? Nobody prosecuted them. And so that is part of the impunity we're talking about in the country. When people in sensitive positions don't show good examples, what does it do? It only keeps on multiplying. When they punch each other, tear each other's clothes, what do you think they'll do to members of the public? They will just continue the aggression. They will just take the aggression outside the chambers and continue with it. The fact of the matter is that the Senate should stand down this committee and wait for the court to give its judgment. Then the Senate can decide on what
that
to
judgment,
do.
They can now use. They can now. The Senate has the
easier.
power.
Because
the Senate has the power
you can even see
to suspend any member. Though the court, that is debatable, depending on is the House. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. But you cannot do that now. Because, yes, I agree that the committee was consulted before it was taken to court.
Yeah, but once the court gets involved.
When he was charged and the case is ongoing, it's sub judice.
Because even if the Senate suspends
it's sub judice.
Even if the Senate suspends him,
it will be legal. He has
the right to go to court and reverse it. I mean, there have been cases. There have been.
They'll reverse it.
We have precedents.
And then of the fact now, okay, he's been arraigned now, but then there's also an apology that has also been circulated widely in the public eyes, so to speak. And then the accused, he remains innocent. The law will be reminded.
The prosecutor will bring the apology.
And then he pleaded not guilty.
No, that's how it works. That's how it works. If you go to court, because he apologized, does not mean he didn't have his own story. Mm. He has his own story.
Yes.
And I can tell you that why he apologized was because his godfather came out and told him point blank that what you have done is unacceptable. He's an Atiku's boy. Yeah. And immediately that happened, Alhaji Atiku came out and said, this guy is known to me, what he has done is unacceptable, and the PDP should sanction it, and people should look into it, and that the police should look into it, and that he should go and give himself to the police. That showed him to say, look, the PDP as an umbrella could not protect him, you understand? And then politically, because they could not be protected, and the senators also came out and said, look, what you have done is unacceptable. So he has no choice, he has to apologize. But that does not, for him to win the case, it will be very difficult, because not only that his apology alone is not important, but the video itself, the fact speaks for itself, you understand? But so, I don't agree with him, because he seems to have anger issues, and because he has anger issues, he did that. But yes, he's right to say, look, I'm not supposed to talk about this thing because it's sub judice. Yeah. Yes.
Right, and now the majority from what this table now is saying, all right, the Senate should just, take a pause on this probe. But then there are suggestions, and I'm sure the victim is rightly, looking at the options before her, whether to even go to court now to institute a civil suit.
It's not about her. It's a criminal. It's a
criminal on one hand.
Yes,
and then there is also the possibility that this will not just be the only suit or the only legal action. So when will the Senate, do we see a seeming helplessness on the part of the Senate now to take a stand, or should it just be back to the constituency of Elisha?
No, the Senate, there is no helplessness there. The Senate is a law-making institution, and the Senate is a democratic institution that abides by the laws. What will happen? Let the court dispense with the matter, and then the Senate will take it up.
As many courts?
Sorry?
As many courts? It may not just be one court.
No, well, you see, the wheel of justice grinds slowly, but surely. So there's no hurry. What he has done, which was captured on video, all of this will be tendered by the prosecutor. It is now left for him to state his own case and really prove that he's not guilty. But What I want to see is that members of parliament, whether at the national level, at the state level, even at the local government level, should begin to see themselves as role models.
Right. Mayor Akikpelu and Emeka Madunago, we appreciate your analysis on the program today, and we thank you to all our viewers who kept us company throughout this very interesting edition of Journalist Hangout. That's it on the program today, but join us tomorrow for another episode and watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel remains Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. Thanks for watching. I'm Kemi Fola Adeyemo. Bye for now. And God bless Nigeria.